everyone, and welcome back to this warm-up. I'm your host Kladi, and I'm gonna be here until 5 p.m. UK time, which I believe is 9 PST. I haven't checked the Pacific time, but I definitely know that it's going to be 1 hour and 30 minutes of Photoshop fun, learning how to do some composite together. And if you're joining from YouTube, make sure to head on behance.net/live so I can read your questions, say hello, and we can chat together. And speaking of the chat, I can see already a very active chat here. I can see Valda here. Thank you so much for joining me. You, Steve, and Sean were there from even before me, which I found fantastic. Thank you so much for joining me and for sticking around. And I can see Mateus Fonseca. I can see Team. Nice to see you, Team. I've been missing you during my stream, so it's very nice to have you here. I can see Tiemoko. I can see Jesus Ramirez, which recently landed in Manchester. So hopefully, guys, you're going to see it soon on Behance as well. And Andrea Soler, hope to say hi to you. And of course, ciao, Steve. Oh, didn't I mention it? I say ciao to you on the chat, but of course, I wanted to say hello here also when we're live. With Steve, we have this ongoing Italian lesson class and Adobe Learning, which go at the same time. So feel free to join us with a little bit of Italian during this stream as well. And for those of you who don't know me, the reason why we enjoy learning Italian is because you probably tell from the accent, I am from Italy. I'm based in Manchester, UK, where I run my design studio, PrintMySoul. But before telling you more and jumping into my screen, I want to show you the schedule for today, because you got an amazing, beautiful, packed day full of amazing streamers that will show you very fantastic tips and techniques with the Adobe apps. So I'm gonna just jump real quick in the chat, see if there is more people to say hi to. Hi Nadia, hi Cheryl, DPI, Roger. Amazing. Thank you so much for being here with me. Come into the chat. If you are in YouTube, I can see the chat in YouTube getting busy. The only reason for me to read your messages if you head on behance.net/live. But let's jump into our schedule and I'll be able to share with you that fantastic day that you have ahead. So we were supposed to start with Welcome to Chromatica, but we are going to be working in Photoshop. So stay tuned for 1 hour and 30 minutes of Photoshop compositing here. And we're going to talk about superheroes, and we're going to jump into Photoshop in a second. And keep going in Photoshop after me, the wonderful Paul Trani with the Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge, first challenge of the day, followed by Monica Ainho, I believe I pronounced it right, I hope so, with vector art. And then Julia Masalska is gonna follow with her Illustrator Daily Creative Challenge. You have one more week of fantastic Illustrator challenges with Julia. And then Paul Singh will show how to do UI and UX case study at 12 Pacific, followed by Jesse Showalter with Adobe XD Daily Creative Challenge. That's the third challenge of the day. So you got a very, very busy day. And then closing the day with fun and party, Andrew Hockrado and Logan Ferber, which I was watching yesterday on Andrew channel here on Behance. Amazing fun, wonderful story. Lovely to learn more about Logan as well. And that will close the day for today. So as you can see, you have a very busy creative day. And I'm going to jump again once more in the chat to say hello. I can see that we got Tassio from Brazil and Parth. Hello. Let me know where you're streaming from and also what time is it there, because I know that now in California, Pacific time, I don't know which other states are in the Pacific time. It's very early in the morning. So thank you so much for joining us. And of course, good morning if that's your morning, and good afternoon if you're here with me in this side of the world where it's 3:35. And of course, as I said, I'm in the UK. And good evening. I know that Steve, you are in New Zealand, if I believe. So is it already evening for you? Let us know. So designing the dark stream will be super fun. Absolutely, team. This is so stay tuned until the end of the day, because Andrew Logan will definitely keep you busy. But I'm gonna jump on my screen real quick and start to show you a little bit more about what we're gonna be talking today. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm gonna show off my website a little bit, very briefly. But I've just launched it, and I'm sure you're gonna find a lot of mistakes because it's still in a beta launch. So if you want to learn about me and what I do, I run a design studio in Manchester called PrintMySoul, and I can see Steve saying it's 2:35 a.m. Steve, you're like up 24 hours around the clock. That's commitment. I look forward to see your Behance page, because you'll be like really learning and sharpening your skills. But thank you so much for joining me. We do the same crazy hours, looks like. And also I can see Roy saying it's 8 p.m. in India. So of course, good evening to you guys. And in Florida is 10:35. We have Cheryl from Florida. So good morning, Cheryl. Okay, let me tell you a little bit more about me. So team very diligently is sharing all the link if you need and if you are curious about it. So this is my website. This is my studio website. And in fact, team assured both website, because I'm gonna tell you more. So this is my studio. You can see some work that I've done for some clients, and of course a book that I designed. And also you can learn more about previous Adobe Live in the news. You have a lot of articles and connected videos to international event that I run, and of course the other Adobe Live, some awards that I took part on. And you can click in learn more here, read more, and you can see all the previous stream. But also you can see selected client works by going into client, and you can see a little bit more about what I do. And of course, team was pointing you out to iamkladi.com, which is the website that has more resources and the teaching side, the mentoring sides of my job. And this is just my personal website, while in the previous one you can find the amazing team of freelancer that works for Studio PrintMySoul. I Am Kladi is just simply my own website. So you can, if you head to iamkladi.com/resources, you have access to a lot of freebies that I publish whenever I have time. And if you do put your email over here, you have actually access to some special freebies in the gift page. And I believe that you're gonna receive an email and then a link, and I still have active a typeface. Tomorrow I will show you more about that, because I'm not ready for it. But what you need today, if you want to follow along with me, is to download the stream asset. So you can see the stream of today. You can recognize it by the same photo that it was on the cover before we started. Is a Photoshop composite. We're gonna start absolutely right now, so make sure to click on stream assets in order to open the Dropbox folder, and you will have 2 images and a PSD file. The PSD file is simply an open file with the right size, but let's create a new one for those of you who want to start from scratch. Also, you're going to find 2 images from Adobe stock. We're going to talk about that in a second. And otherwise, you can use the one that I provided for you, which are those over here. And we're going to create a tiger man. So I'm going to also show where I got my inspiration from in just a second. But feel free to go ahead and share and download those assets in order to work together. Also, we're going to talk about Bert, but let's get started first and do one thing at a time. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Photoshop, and then go ahead and click on create new in order to open a new file. You can also open a new file by clicking on Command N, which is Control N on Windows, I believe. I think the shortcut worked the same. And Steve is saying, wink, wink, I should be committed. Well, you know, that's the beauty of Adobe Live. It's always a safe space when you can relax, you can do some work, or not necessarily. You can also simply listen in the background and just get inspired and about the work that you're doing, even if it's something completely different. That's something that I do very often when I'm working. I always have my amazing friend Julia, Andrew, the amazing Paul Trani, Jason Levine, Terry White. Is amazing to have all of you guys in the background while I work, and I always get inspired. And it's very tempting when I see the stream time, even if Steve, like sometimes it's your time, it's 2 a.m, I'm still working, I should go to bed, but I have to click and say hello in the chat. Roger Walton said it's 3:40 here in Yorkshire. Well, we definitely are in the same time zone because I'm in Manchester. Let me know, give me a shout if everyone is here from the UK. I would love to say hello. And also from Italy, if there is anyone tuning in from Italy. Marisa, thank you so much for joining me. And fantastic. Again, I can see a lot of people tuning in from YouTube. If you are watching from YouTube, head to behance.net/live in order for me to read your comments, because I don't read the comments on YouTube. I only can see the chat that is on behance.net/live. So make sure that you travel there in order to communicate with me and ask questions. During this time, we're going to be learning about compositing in Photoshop. Feel free to ask any question related to a project, related to composite, Photoshop in general. I'm more than happy to use this time to be here with you and answer your questions. Don't be afraid. As I said, this is a safe space where we're learning new skills and sharpening our techniques with the fabulous Adobe apps. Carol, nice to see you. I can see that Carol is joining us. Perfect. Angelica, looks like we're ready to go. So I'm going to start with a landscape 6x4, and I'm going to zoom in because, as you can see, this is a recent items that I've used, 6x4 inches. You can use any size you want. I found this one a quite nice standard to start working if you are working on a landscape, which is what we're going to be doing today. And Sean wants to say hi to all 863 people. Well, I'm going to say hello and blow a big kiss to everyone. Philippines, 10 p.m. Good evening to you, Von Nico. And let's get started. So if you want to change the size, you can either click on one of the presets here that we find into our new document window, or you can simply head here and select which kind of measurement you want to work. If you want to work with a metric, what kind of unit you want to work, you could work with pixels. In this case, I'm going to go with a 6x4 inches, and I'm going to use a resolution of 300 dpi, just in case this composite becomes so gorgeous that I decide to print it. When you invest into some personal project, I always work with a resolution that allows me to print, because that can become a fantastic promotional material for you that you can distribute to agency and potential clients. So that's why we're working with this larger resolution of 300 pixels per inch. Also, depending on what you want to work with, we can start with RGB and then convert and export our image in CMYK. So I'm just gonna leave my preset like so, and I'm gonna call this Tiger Man Composite Comp, and I'm gonna click on Create to open our wonderful artboard. Now, if you are working and if you just tune in, don't forget to head on my website. Tim hopefully will share the link again. Is I am Kladi. Let's see if I can show you real quick here. iamkladi.com/resources, and you'll be able to download. Let me jump into it real quick. So it's iamkladi.com/resources. You'll have access to a lot of free assets, but in particular, you can have access to the one for today. Here they are: Photoshop Composite. Click on Stream Asset, and you will be taken to a Dropbox link that contain already set up Photoshop file, which is just what we did, and also 2 photos from Adobe Stock. And let's talk about Adobe Stock, because those are images that I've chosen. And as you can see, and probably you know already, but if not, that's going to be a wonderful surprise. You can access Adobe Stock directly into Photoshop. So what we used to do in the past is to go ahead into our browser and then search for stock.adobe.com, and I'm going to zoom it in so you can see it here. And maybe Tim can put it also in the chat. Sorry, Tim, I asked you, but you're always very amazing in sharing all the resources. RB, what's up? How's it going? Nice to see you. It's been a while. Rob Davis, good morning from Columbus, Ohio. Nice to see you. Also, I can see hey girl, Ebert from Louisiana. Thank you so much for joining. RB, where is Alberto? We need to shout what's up all together. And let's go back. Oops. It looks like I over zoom. I'm getting carried away here, RB. So I'm just gonna jump back and show you and tell you a little bit more about stock.adobe.com. Team has been amazing as usual and has already shared the link into the chat. And again, if you're on YouTube, make sure to head on behance.net/live so you can grab all the live links that Team is sharing with you. And here you can find and search any image you want. In this case, I was looking for a tiger roaring because, oh, let me show the inspiration. One of the inspiration is one of my favorite superhero. I'm absolutely in love with him, and is Daredevil. So I was browsing, I was watching Netflix, and I came across this cover from Daredevil. And let me see, probably I can make it bigger. Here it is. And I love the TV show, and I love him, and I love the cover as well. So I was like, fantastic. Why don't we show and learn together how to create these fantastic professional covers that are used very often in these popular TV shows? And what we have here in this composite, besides of course the title and the logo of Marvel, and of course the name of Daredevil, we have mainly two images. One is Daredevil in civilian clothes, and then is the fantastic Daredevil mask. So how do we create this transition of having two different images melted together and then having all this splatter? And that's what we're going to be working on these 2 days. And also there is another TV show which I find very funny. I don't know if you guys watch it. It's called Lucifer. It's supposed to be about the devil, but it's a very funny, cute devil. So I also really love the way that this composite was created with in terms of lighting and the city in the background and clouds. So I'm going to try to merge these two, and that's something else that I wanted to talk about. The fact when you work with composite, you don't necessarily have to copy someone else's work as inspiration, but it's nice to expose yourself to different assets that you like, and then pick selected elements in order to create your own version. And that's what we're going to be doing today. Today and tomorrow's, we're going to be creating our own version. And in this case, I was very intrigued by Tiger Man. It used to be a cartoon when I was young, and I don't know if it's still out there. But also, I love tigers. I think they're absolutely wonderful images. They're absolutely wonderful animals. I know that there is also a very funny show about a tiger man, but it didn't. I didn't like it too much, so I decided to find my own Tiger Man. So let's see. I'm gonna show you a little bit, because I've started on my own, a little bit of what we're working towards. This is not finalized, so tomorrow I'm gonna show you the full final. I don't know if we're gonna get to this one today, but that's what we're gonna work in towards. So we have a man, we have the tiger, we start to build a transition, and then we have the city with the clouds, which is a brush. So we're gonna be working with Bert Monroy brush that allow us to create mask here with the fur. So I hope you're ready to get started, because I'm gonna jump into Photoshop. Make sure to download the file, and I can see if I have a question. How do you print your soul? So RB, that's a very cool question. The reason why I called my business PrintMySoul, and you probably saw it here, is because I think it's a great conversation starter. Now, I run a design business, and what I do is I transform businesses, missions and core messages and services into a visual. So I translated that into printing in the primitive sense of marking, so creating a brand of someone's soul. So the answer to your question, RB, is by creating a branding, a logo, and hopefully we'll be talking about that soon. But as you know, that's something that I'm really specialized about, and the whole idea is that a client comes to me because they want for me to mark their soul, transforming their entity into a logo that can be visually communicated into the market. But don't get me started on that, because I can talk for like 5 hours. Right, fantastic. So we were talking about Adobe Stock and the way that we used to have it before. I believe it was last year that it was released as a new service within Photoshop. Time is the eye of the tiger. Yes, fantastic. So let me know if you guys have any other question, because I'll be looking at the chat on behance.net/live and to answer all your questions while we work. And I can see also Team saying Lucifer was great. The third season was, I agree, like when Eve came and all of that, it kind of like got me lost. I love season 1 and season 2 though. It's so funny. I love his accent. He's very handsome, but also is absolutely funny. I very, very like it. Fantastic. So RB, you must put your soul on vinyl. So you're a musician. See, that's exactly the point. You translate your soul into something else. Fantastic. So in terms of downloading your assets, you do not have to go on adobestock.com, although it's a fantastic way to browse for images that you can use and download. So if you download it for free, you will have an image with the watermark like the one that I provided for you. And if you use your work for commercial as a commercial assets, you will need to license it, and it's very easy. Just click on license it. Otherwise, you can save it to your library anyway. Super easy. Make sure to log in here with your Adobe ID and you'll be ready to go. But let's see how to browse the library directly in Photoshop so we can stay focused on creating and we do not need to leave our workspace. So we just started, we opened the file, fantastic. Let's go to our libraries panel. If you do not have access to your libraries panel, make sure to go under the window menu from the top in Photoshop and make sure that the libraries are tick over here, and that will bring up your libraries panel. And as you can see, the first thing that you're going to see is a search bar just underneath the libraries panel that will allow to research and browse images directly in Photoshop. So what you can do here is to do the same that I've done before. So you can look for a tiger and you can find any beautiful tiger that you want. Those are so gorgeous. The only thing that I make sure is to use both images, both assets that are in the same angle. This is very, very important when composite, trying to find assets that have the same angle. So let's get going. I was looking in the chat. You can also filter your assets. In this case, we need photos because we're going to create a photo composite. Although you can find 3D, you can find templates, you can find videos. We might use video tomorrow. We can have some nice little fire in the background. That's a good idea. So let's see, tomorrow we're gonna really bring it to the next step. And you can find some editorial and of course illustration. And for illustration and vectors, those are real vector professional file that you'll be able to open in Adobe Illustrator and modify. Fantastic. So in this case, you can also create a library for your project. I already done so. If you want to do so as well, all you have to do is to click on the down pointing arrow under your search libraries and go here where it says create new library, where there is this little plus. Click once in order to create your library. All you have to do is to name it. As you can see, I already created my lovely Tiger Man library with all the assets. And it looks like I haven't been too neat because I got these assets over here, but what a great opportunity to show you how to move the assets. So in this case, I've placed 2 assets into a wrong folder. All you have to do is to right click and you'll be able to move it to, and in this case, I'm gonna move it to Tiger Man. And I'm gonna do the same with the tiger, move to Tiger Man. So now that I can browse my libraries, go to Tiger Man, and here it is. And you can either drag and drop in order to bring the image directly into your file, or you can double click on the asset in order to open it on a separate files. And bear in mind, probably something that I've not replied is to that I've not said is that you can license and download the images directly in Photoshop, and let me show you how to do that. So for example, if we browse for tiger and now make sure that we look into Adobe Stock, all you have to do if you want to license it is to click on the little card, or if you want to just download it, the preview, you can drag and drop it into your file just like so, and this will be a low resolution which is watermarked, or click on the little plus to add it to your library. But let's go back to our Tiger Man library, and I'm gonna jump into here. Kitty, yes, Carol. What a lovely kitty. Not at all sharp fangs there. So scary. I love them and I respect them. I will never get close, but I admire their beautiful animals. There will be 50 minutes of laughing and 10 minutes of teaching. Sean, what are you talking about? Have I missed something? Let me scroll up. I'm curious now. I want to see what you were talking. Oh, my mom is here. Hi, Julie. Hi, Mom. Thank you so much for joining me. My parents are becoming Adobe experts. And stay on the question. There was someone asking, Ryan, how do you get to be a teacher on Adobe Live? So I believe that when you scroll on Adobe Live, you can submit your portfolio and you can request, and definitely by showcasing your work on behance.net/live. Make sure to create project, to tag, and also I know that there is an hopefully team can help us, but I know that there is a little pop-up that sometimes requests to submit your details if you want to share your work. And also you could request to do your own Behance channel here in order to share your work. Oh, so Tim is saying that at the moment is invite only base, and yeah, through Behance profile or ask previous guest. Yes, absolutely. That's very true. Thank you so much, Tim. So fantastic. We started with our first asset here, and then we need to bring our man. We got the tiger and we need the man. So I already downloaded these assets. Those are the one that you will find as well in your folder with the watermark. I have licensed them in order to work and share it with you and share the workflow with you, so we have a higher resolution here. And then what I'm going to do here is to create a rough selection. So the reason why I opened the file into a separate window is because I don't need to bring all those pixels into my own file. So we're gonna go ahead and click on the lasso tool. You can use the shortcut L, or just simply go here on the toolbar on the left and click once, and then I'm just gonna roughly go ahead around him and select just a little bit more than the pixel that we will need. And this is one way of doing it, just in order to create a rougher copy, a rougher, faster way to create a selection. Or another way of doing it is perhaps to go under properties and use our fantastic shortcut. Let me just make sure that we have our light layers selected, and unlock the layer by clicking once. So in the properties panel, we can perhaps remove the background in order to create a selection. But I think this can work already. So we can perhaps just press Command C in order to copy the pixels, or yeah, let's do that. So actually let's do what I was doing before. Let me show you another workflow. So I'm going to use the lasso tool and have a little bit more of a larger selection. So we bring just the pixel that we want, and then press Command C in order to copy those pixels, and go back to our Tigerman composition and press Command V in order to bring it in. Fantastic. We see already that our image is so much bigger than our canvas, which is it's gonna allow us to have a really nice resolution. What I'm doing here, I'm dragging from the Dropbox in order to scale the image. If you are already used to the new way of working in Photoshop, you do not need to hold Shift in order to constrain proportion. And when you're happy with the size of the image, you're gonna press Return. Something that I usually do, because I like to post my work, no matter what work I do, I like to post it on Instagram. What I usually sometimes do is to go ahead and click once into the rectangle tool and create a rectangle tool of 1080 pixels by 1080 pixels, and click OK from center. And then, and then I'm going to press Command A in order to select the entire pixel of the artboard, and you can see the marching ends all around the canvas. And then I'm going to go to the Move tool and make sure that I align my square horizontally and also vertically. This will allow me to have an idea of the crop that I can create for Instagram, so I can you know, kind of have an idea where the action is gonna happen. Hi Michelle, thank you so much for joining me here, and has in the chat. I can see Khaled, I can see Bowie, I can see Avantika. Oh, Marisa, you're so sweet. Marisa is saying, giving compliments to my mom. That's very nice. Very, very sweet. Thank you. I'm gonna blush now. And for those of you who are just joining, make sure to head on iamkladi.com/resources, and you will find all the assets for this stream in order to jump in and join me while I'm working. Fantastic. So we're gonna keep our rectangle here, and I'm just gonna call it Instagram post. And again, that will just serve us at the very end and during the process to make sure that we have an idea where the focus of our composition is gonna go. Then I'm gonna go ahead and transform this image into a smart object by right-clicking on the layer and clicking to convert to smart object. And as you can see, when you convert an item to a smart object, you're gonna have this little icon appearing on the side that tells us, hey, this is a smart object. And if you don't know what is a smart object, it's basically a container that will allow us to hold multiple files inside one single layer, and also to apply any adjustment or edits to the image without losing the original. So it will allow you to have not destructive edits and a modification to the image. So let's get started by doing some edits. So in order to create edits, all I have to do is to double click, and as you can see, the container opens and we have what is contained inside our smart object. And in here, I'm going to use the remove background. So make sure to select your layer, make sure that is unlocked, and we're going to go ahead and click on our properties panel. And then here, remove background uses the fantastic Adobe Sensei, which is Adobe Artificial Intelligence brain that works behind the scene, and in one click we've done a very nice mask already. You can also go ahead here and clean up all this selection. Let's see, perhaps if we click and use the object selection tool, it will probably be able to grab these, or it's too much of a smaller job. If not, don't worry, all you have to do is press Command D to deselect and click on the mask. And by clicking on B or selecting the brush tool, remember operating with the mask, and you can see that we have those little frame around the container telling us that we're working on the mask. If I click on the photo, you can see that they move around. So make sure that you are on the mask with the brush tool. You can select the size of the brush by using the left curly bracket to make it smaller and the right to make it bigger. Also, make sure to zoom in. The more you zoom in, even if the image looks pixelated, the less issue you're gonna have into the image. And I'm smiling here because I can see my friend Ant Pruitt in the chat. And thank you so much for joining me. It's very amazing to have you here. It's Kladi time. Yes, we're doing some Photoshop composite here, so very nice to see you. And what I'm doing here with the brush selected, make sure to head on the swatches and select black. You can also swap between the foreground and the background color by pressing X. So we want the black color on the top, and this will allow us to hide any pixel that is present on the mask. Remember, black conceal, white reveal. So if we paint in white, we're gonna reveal pixels. If we paint in black, as you can see here, we are hiding them. And of course here I'm gonna go very fast because I want to show you so many things, and I want to show you another amazing way to working with mask in composite. But in your own time, you'll be able to zoom in and really detail. Also, something else that is really cool that you can do is to click once and then Alt Shift and then click again, and this will allow you to move a little bit faster, so you're gonna have some straight line building up. It looks like Adobe Sensei has already done a quite fantastic job. I think we lost a little bit of a finger here, so press X, and as you can see here, we have our swatch panel that have swapped between white and black because we want to reveal this part of the finger that we lost when we removed the background. And again, you can keep going here, and I could spend an entire day to refine an image, but double click on the little hand in order to size it back. And let's close this layer and click on save in order to go back into our fantastic file. And as you can see, we already created a smart object with a mask. This will allow us to create multiple masks again without losing the main selection of the man. Alberto, what's up? Nice to see you, Alberto Silva. Finally joining one of my stream again. Very honored to have you here. I'm just joking, of course. I've known Alberto here from Adobe Live. It's been almost a year that we chat, and then I'm either in the chat with you guys or during the live. And of course on Instagram, we talk a lot as well. And it's always nice to have this beautiful atmosphere, fun that we have here with you guys. Carol, RB, Alberto, Steve. I can Molly, Sean, of course, Team Valdair, so many of you that keep tuning in and you keep me company. You're part of my enlarged family, and it's fantastic to have the chance to hang out here with you. Feel free to ask me questions. As you know, I do that on Instagram, and since we're talking about Instagram, I'm just gonna give myself a shout to my Instagram. If you wanna say hi, Alberto, don't blush. You know, we're always fun in our chats. And if you do want to follow me on Instagram, you can go from our Behance, from my Behance page, or from iamkladi.com. If you scroll down, you'll be able to access my Instagram, which is I am Kladi. Pretty much everywhere on my social media, I am Kladi is the place where you can find me. Drop me a message. I'm usually very available for conversation, and I also do questions on my stories when, for example, I travel or I have some downtime. I can concentrate a few hours just replying to your questions. So feel free to follow me and give me a shout there. But let's go back and let's bring our tiger in. So something else that I want to do is to go back into my library and make sure that we head to our tiger and double click, because we're going to do the same. Now with the tiger, I'm going to work in details. So I'm going to use the size of the tiger. So I'm going to go back into my man composite, and I'm going to click on the layer in order to start naming it, to keep everything organized. I'm just going to call it man, and I'm going to also double click it again in order to transform it. In this case, Joshua, don't worry, we're just starting. We are working in Photoshop. We're going to do a composite. We're going to create a tiger man, and let me just show you the inspiration real quick. We're going to create something similar to the fantastic Daredevil cover. So hopefully you can see it here. Maybe I'll make it bigger and I keep it here. So we're going to create this fantastic composite between a man and a tiger in this case, and also a little bit more from other TV shows. So we're going to learn how to create professional composite that are used, I used in the majority of the TV show that we see on Netflix. So Tosin from Nigeria, welcome in here. Bowie, I've erased part of his hand already. What did I do? I think that I deleted the background in between his fingers, but you can always go back. As you can see here, we always have access to the main image, and that's the beauty of working with a smart object that contains our mask. So we can always come back and tweak it. But what I want to do here is to also swap the image horizontally, flip it horizontally. And in order to do so, all I have to do is press Command T and then right click and click on flip horizontal, and here it is. And the only reason why I'm doing that is because our tiger is on the other side. Press Command W or Control W on Windows in order to close your document, and make sure to save in order to save the changes to your smart object. I'm also reading the chat. I'm talking and reading, so I can want to say hi to Sayana and Adrian and Thomas. Oh, sure, Thomas. Why don't we call it Dennis? I agree. Let's call it Dennis. Here it is. So you're right. Let's give him a name. So at least we have Dennis. And how do we call the tiger? If we don't call the man, we can all call the tiger. So what are we going to be told? We need a name for the tiger. So give me your suggestions, because it's time to bring in the tiger. And what we're going to do, we're going to just kind of split him in half and have him transforming into a tiger. But in order to bring in the tiger, I'm going to show you a different technique that will allow you to really make sure that we match the features. Because as we know, a tiger and a man, or actually the tiger, which is unnamed still, and our friend Dennis, have very different features, and we're really trying to match them. Walter the tiger. That sounds good. Walter. Also more TV shows here. Sharon from Toronto. Tiger. Mac Tiger face. That's funny, Tim. Fix his fingers, please. What's going on? Boy, we can always go back and fix his fingers. What did I do? Where did I take some of his fingers off? It's this little bit here. As I say, Boy, I'm just gonna do this because I want to make sure that you're happy with these fingers. And again, just go with the brush tool into your mask and bring it back. But also, you can take all the time in the world. I'm gonna show you tomorrow. I think this bit of the hand is missing. You can take your time to do this in a much better way tomorrow. I will show you definitely the final, but here I want to show you many more techniques, so you can do that in your own time. I don't want to spend the entire time of the stream refining details, even if it's very important, and I would suggest you to do so. Boy, I hope that I brought back the bits that I've chopped before, but I'm gonna press Command S to save and Command W to close, and here it is. But let's start bringing in the tiger. So I'm gonna, as I did, go back to my library, double click on the Siberian tiger, which is still unnamed, I believe, Subramaniam the tiger. I don't know if I can pronounce that. And then I'm gonna unlock this layer, and I'm gonna start to chop bits of the tiger with the lasso tool. So exactly like we did for our Dennis friend, Dennis the man, we've done using the lasso tool. So I'm gonna press L or click here on the side of my toolbar, and then Shere Khan from the Jungle Book. Yay! Poor Bayan, Shere Khan is there. But this is a superhero. Shere Khan was mean, wasn't it? What's going on here, Vicky? We're having fun. We're having fun using Photoshop and creating some composite. So I'm gonna start with the eyes, and don't worry about it. This is gonna look a little bit weird at first, but follow along and we will get there. So I'm gonna start by selecting the top of the eyes and also this part of the mouth. And as you can see, I kind of like chopped on the side. And again, make sure to create a selection that is always a little bit larger than the pixel that you want to use, so you got some jiggle room. So perhaps I'm going to move this selection a little bit more to the left, so I got a little bit more room here on his face. And by holding shift, I'm going to create a little bit more in order to bring his mustaches as well. I'm sure that they're not called mustaches. I don't know what they're called. Let me know if you know. I'm not a tiger expert. So once you are ready and started to select it, and I'm going to zoom in so you can start to see a little bit better what I'm doing here. So using the lasso tool, I'm starting to breaking down the tiger face in order to adapt it to Dennis the man in our composite. Once you're done, press Command C, and let's go back into our composite, and I'm going to zoom in and press Command V. Now, fantastic, because I did license the image, we have this huge resolution. So all I have to do is press Command T and then drag it down in order to match the size of our beloved Dennis face. And I'm gonna go ahead and click on return when I'm happy with roughly the size of the image. Probably that's still a little bit too big, but I'm gonna click return for now. And then I'm gonna use the opacity here, layer, and that's under the layer. Oh, whiskey, I like whiskey. And I'm not an alcoholic, I just like the name whiskey. I think that the color matches very well our tiger. So whiskey is a very funny name. I'll probably call it whiskey. Should we call it whiskey? Let me know in the chat. But anyway, here what I'm doing is bringing the opacity of the tiger down so we can start to have an idea where the nose is, where the eyes is, where the mouth are, so we can start to match them in order to danger mustache. Team, you're making me giggle. Is this inspired by the Tiger King? Well, this is really inspired by Daredevil and Lucifer. And yes, I also stumbled upon the Tiger King, but I wasn't really a fan. So I decided to create Tiger Man, which is like the positive superhero that is gonna go and free all the tigers. That's the job. We find already a mission for this Tiger Man. So he's gonna go and yes, of course, Alberto. And we're gonna send him to free all the tigers that all Carol, what is her name? Carol? I remember Carol something. Sorry, Carol Per is definitely not you in the chat, but it's definitely another Carol who holds tiger next to the Tiger King, and we want them to keep free. So okay, fantastic. Nobody's an alcoholic here, but we all love the name whiskey. I think that's pretty fair. And of course, Alberto, I needed to specify that because I was like, ooh, I like whiskey, but I think it's a very cool name. Okay, fantastic. Once we brought the opacity down and to the point that we can see both enough of the tiger and enough of Dennis. And for those of you who don't know, we decided to name the man Dennis, and the tiger is Whiskey. So we're gonna start to manipulate the tiger image in order to match the photo. Carol Baskin. I believe that there is a TikTok song which I'm not gonna sing today. I'm probably gonna publish the video on my Instagram stories once we're done. I'm gonna keep my aplomb for the Adobe Live, and then afterwards I'm gonna be doing the Carol Baskin on on my Instagram. So I'm gonna press Command T in order to start to transform the tiger, and I'm gonna be able to squeeze it a little bit because it's in a weird position. Also, it's gonna be masked into our Dennis man face. So make sure to Alt Shift in order to start to distort the tiger. And I know that I'm missing the top part. Don't worry about it. So far, we definitely have matched the eye, but we definitely need to put the nose a little bit higher up. So I don't know if you can see here, but it looks like that the nose is pretty perfect. And also the mouth, it looks like the fangs are coming perfectly out of his mouth. And who mentioned it to Paul Trani about drinking open coffee? Oh, Paul, he was laughing when he was having coffee. Is that what happened, Steve? I don't know. I probably missed it. Audie, thank you so much for joining me. And some delete, some hide, and nothing we can do about it. And I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm just reading the chat. RB, I don't know what you're talking about right there. If you want to specify, if you want me to understand, perhaps write that again, because I definitely missed the topic of the conversation up there. I'm just gonna go and scroll down because I'm very curious to know what's going on in the chat here on behance.net/live. And I'm gonna say it one more time. If you are on YouTube, make sure to head on behance.net/live. So you can chat with me, you can ask me question live, and I'll be able to see your messages. And you can also have access to the fantastic link that our lovely team shares in the chat. Okay, fantastic. So I have a lot of beverages here as well, but I try to keep it like away. I got my protein shake, I got my coffee, I got water. Such a bad habit. Very, very bad habits here. Okay. But let's get started. So how do we modify, besides using the usual transform, how do we start to move these oh, I just freaked out because you were deleting pixel instead of using non-destructive mask. Don't worry, we're gonna get there in a second. At this moment, we're just gonna start and copy, but I think you're right. We can start to create a mask. Let's listen to Tim, because Tim's got always good advice and always good links, very useful information, either under the form of Photoshop tips or links. So let's go ahead and create straight away a mask. And I'm gonna go ahead, smart object. So I'm going to go ahead and click on our Whiskey Tiger eyes, and I'm going to right click in order to convert to a smart object in order to start modifying. I'm not going to go ahead and delete pixels yet or hide them under a mask. I'm still really trying to fit our tiger first. So I'm going to press Command T in order to use the warp tool. So to access the warp tool, all you have to do is press Command T and then click on this lovely icon over here that will allow you to move the corner independently. But before, I'm going to create a grid that will also help me to create some stable points. And in particular, I'm going to use this split over here. And you can also, the split will allow to give you a vertical and an horizontal one, but to keep it neat, you can also just use a vertical line and then put an horizontal line whenever you want. Oh no, team, I think it was a fantastic tip. I wasn't just there yet, but it's always very good to transform straight away your layer into smart objects so you can work not distractively. I think it's a fantastic reminder. Thank you so much for having it here. And once we're done, and Steve, I actually want to tell you a very funny story, because I know you guys are talking about spilling drinks next to laptops. That's how I met Tony Harmer. If you watch the Adobe UK live streams, you probably couldn't have missed the fantastic Tony Harmer. I believe every Friday there is a Tony Harmer show as well. And I met Tony going to a conference where he was the main speaker, and I was sat next to him on a tray, and I spilled my orange juice on his laptop. Can you imagine? It was like the speaker, and I was there to attend the conference, and I just boop, spilled all my orange juice in on his laptop. Thankfully, nothing happened. He made me stand up in the audience, and he was giving a talk into an IMAX theater, so it was like a huge cinema, and he was like, hey, you get up, if something doesn't work, it's that lady fault because she spilled the oranges. But thankfully nothing happened. Of course, I went there and grabbed all the napkins as I could, and we became great friends, and he's still my mentor and guru and friend, and big shout to Tony Harmer. So what I'm doing here is using, besides chatting and having fun here with you guys, is using the warp tool in order to create some fixed area in my design, and also create some points that I can move. So perhaps what I want to move here is the eye. And as you can see, I can start to do so, but I also don't want the nose to move. So I want to make sure to keep my nose on the same place, and I can already put a point there, so it just kind of fixes this area where I place the point, and then all the pixels that I'm going to be moving, as you can see, is simply over here. And you can start to move this a little bit back, and perhaps here you can also delete the point at any time if you didn't like what was happening, like I wasn't too happy at what I was doing there. So I can create perhaps an horizontal line, because I think I want to move my tiger eye more to this area, and I think that's look a little bit better here. We're definitely kind of overlapping the eyes of the tiger to the eye of the man without moving the rest, and it looks like the nose is there on point, and the mouth also is. When you're happy with it, click on return. Where do you find the split? Okay, so all you have to do, I'm going to click return in order to accept these changes, and I'm going to show you going again how to do it. All you have to do is select the layer that you want to modify and press Command T to access the transform tool. And then here on the top of the toolbar, you have the warp tool icon. And here it is. I'm going to zoom it in so you can find this. It's this little grid with the bended arch. And here, when you switch between transform and warp mode, you'll be brought into this lovely grid. You can add the split from here. I believe those were a release of Photoshop 2019, were introduced during Max in LA in 2019. And here you can, on 2020, I think it was Photoshop 2020. And then I don't even know what year are we in anymore. I've been at home for so long that I don't even know what day of the week is it. And here you'll find the split, which again, you can find either a cross or a vertical, horizontal one, or default grid. And also you can find the fantastic form that will allow you to create many different shapes. They're very useful for mockups as well. So I'm going to go back into this form, and I'm going to bring the opacity back on my layer. Oops, I think I brought the opacity down into my mask. Don't worry, into the smart object, double click and press Command Save to make sure that we're working right. So the eyes look a little bit like that we probably over transformed it, but we still need to bring the rest of the tiger, so I will leave it like that for now. What I'm going to start doing is to create a mask, and I'm going to do so by clicking on the little icon with my layer selected, and then by clicking on the mask, I'm going to go ahead and press B to access my brush tool, making sure that I have our black and white with black on top in order to hide pixel. And as Tim has told us before, we needed to work with a smart object in order to get our pixel right. Right, fantastic. Another thing that you can do here with the mask, I can see that for some reason is not, let me do this again, because it looks like that our mask wasn't working, and we can create a mask on top. And then I don't know what happened, but I probably hold some shortcut. I think I was holding command, so don't do that. Just all you have to do is to click on the layer and then add here to this little icon, which will allow you to create a vector mask on top of your layer in order to hide pixel. Use the brush tool, make sure that you got black on your foreground, and make your brush bigger by pressing the right key. And then you can go ahead here into the brushes option to select the size and also the hardness. And in this case, I can keep the hardness a little bit low so we don't have too many sharp edges. And as you can see, we're painting on the mask. We're not painting or on the layer. And I'm gonna go ahead and start to delete this side of the tiger whiskey, the drunk tiger. That's very funny, boy. No, she's not drunk. He's like a superhero. So I'm gonna go ahead and keep deleting. It looks like we've done a very good job here. Fantastic. So it looks our mouth of the tiger and mouth of the man are looking good. The eyes was also matching. Now we need to bring in all the rest. And stay tuned, because very shortly I'm gonna show you also how to refine the fur, how to make a selection with the fur, because what we're gonna see that when we're gonna get to the edges is gonna be quite sharp, but we're really gonna bring in the fur, and we're gonna do that with a fantastic legacy brush created by the amazing Bert Monroy. But I'm gonna dive in that in a second. I'm gonna go to the top of his head so we can start talk about that. Hi, Amber. Ages since I was able to join. Well, we're very happy to have you here. Thank you so much for joining me and welcome back. Also, I want to say hi to Osama and Tiamoko. Fantastic. And feel free to pop question in the chat. This is a safe space. I can't believe it. Is it really almost time to go? Like half an hour? We really have to work. Okay, let's get this going, because tomorrow otherwise we're going to have so much to do. The background matching color, the drops. I need to stop chatting. And let's go ahead and go back to our tiger. And in this time, selecting the lasso tool, we're gonna select the top part of our tiger here. There we go. And again, grab more pixel than the one that you need, because you always want some jiggle room. And in fact, just to stay true to what I'm preaching, I'm gonna hold shift and add a little bit more to my selection. I'm gonna even put the eyes there. Perfect. Then press Command C in order to copy these pixels from this file. And hi Ayats, morning. Hi Animal, Luca, Tiger Man. Yes, Luca Sensi. Luca, you're Italian. What didn't like? I don't know. How old are you? Probably you're younger than me. But there was a TV show that I used to watch after school that it was called Tiger Man. I believe it was a cartoon. I really liked it. I don't know if you guys edit in the States or if it was just an Italian thing, but I'm gonna press Command V in order to copy this pixel and Command T in order to resize it, and starting to create and use this other patch of the tiger. And as you can see, when you create composite, it's very tempting to go ahead and use the same image and try to cut it up, but you end up distorting it so bad that it is much worth it to break it down into different areas. And I must give a shout to Jesus Ramirez, because I learned this technique from him, and I'm very stubborn, and so you probably know I'm a stubborn Italian lady, and I was like, no, I want to do it all together, and it was all getting distorted many times when I used to do my composite. But I followed Jesus' advice about splitting the photos in different bits, and it works fantastic because it allows you more flexibility in the image. Okay, perfect. So now I'm just gonna put this on top of our tiger and click on return, and then let's go ahead and right click in order to create a smart object. And then we are going to start with the opacity. We're going to bring the opacity down a little bit. And I'm going to also hide this layer just because I want to make sure that I match the forehead and the ears in the right place. It actually looks like that I already done a good job in terms of placement. So I'm going to bring it back. And then I'm going to create a mask by clicking on the little mask icon here, and with pressing B in order to access our brush tool, I'm going to make a larger brush with the curly bracket, right curly bracket, to make it bigger. Italian stubborn never. I don't know if it's just me or if it's like genetic, cultural, but yeah, that's something that belongs to me, being stubborn. But of course it comes with so many positive attributes of being stubborn, because I never give up in what I do. I work harder and harder, and I think with Alberto we're talking about, you know, how to keep a good vibe, and I think that, you know, my stubbornness got a lot to do with it. Fantastic. Also, something that you can do, since you already created a smart object here for the tiger, and as you can see we got a little bit more of green, I'm gonna double click and I'm going to go ahead and click on select subject. And as you can see, our beautiful sensei has already done a fantastic job in terms of selecting the tiger. And Osana lives in Morocco. What time is it there? Is it like the UK? Here is like 4:30 p.m. So let me know what time is it there. Malik Omar, thank you so much for joining me. I recognize your name. And I'm going to go ahead and click on the mask with the fantastic selection. And that's exactly what I was talking about, guys. Here you see that this selection with the fur is not the best. So how do we bring in the fur? And let me show that in a second. One question, if I big this image is blur broken after making this design. So Animal, if you stretch an image and the resolution of the image is smaller, remember when you work with pixels, if you stretch the pixels, you will lose resolution. And that's the reason why I would suggest you to work with a smaller canvas so your image is already bigger, because it's much better that you use a bigger image and you shrink it down rather than you have a big canvas and then you have to stretch your image, because yes, you will lose quality and it will look pixelated. So not if you use smart object. I think Tim was answering to a previous question. Thank you so much, Tim. I missed that one, but we definitely replied to the second one. It's 11:30 a.m. in Montreal. Fantastic, Michelle. Beautiful. So good morning to you. Sandra, yes, this is available to watch again. You'll be in the behance.net/live underneath, I believe, photo composite, I believe. I don't know which category it's gonna be in, but I will definitely tell you tomorrow. We're gonna be here for part 2. Okay, fantastic. So how do we bring back the fur, the lovely little fur that the beautiful tiger has? And we're gonna be using that over and over again. So make sure to stay tuned and have a look on how to do that. So what I'm gonna do here is to go to my brushes and then click on this little, in the little brushes icon over here. I'm gonna leave that brush settings open because we also need that in a second. But what you really want is to get this little gear open and then make sure that you click on your legacy brushes. Restore the legacy brushes, yes. So press OK. So if you have one of these new versions of Photoshop, in this case I'm working with the Adobe Photoshop 2020 release, make sure to go ahead and bring back our legacy brushes. And in particular, I'm going to go ahead and click on the folder legacy brushes and then default brushes. And I'm going to scroll down until I find a brush that is called Dune Grass. And I'm gonna scroll down because I think it's just is a little bit after the stars, if I remember well. I think I used the stars as a reference here. There are a lot of brushes. I know, yeah, star. We got some stars, so Dune's brushes coming. Fantastic. So as you can see, you have to scroll down a little bit, but then you're gonna read star. And under the star, we have Dune Grass. Now, this brush was created by Bert Monroy, which is an amazing, lovely man that I had the honor to meet at Adobe Max and many other wonderful events. Is, I believe, Photoshop user number 8. Can you imagine? Like, he's the 8th person to ever use Photoshop, and also is a co-writer of one of the first book ever written in Photoshop. And just to show you how amazing he is, besides creating this very useful brush that we're going to use in a second, I want to jump in real quick into his website because he's worth of sharing. And here it is. In order to access his website, all you have to do is put his name and his last name. So it's bertmonroy.com. And I'm gonna zoom it in so you can see Bert Monroy name. And believe it or not, those are his paintings. So they look like photos. And I had the fantastic lux. I looked at this particular piece in his studio in Berkeley, California. And I mean, it's all created with pixels. Is a painting. Is not like a composite. Is not like sticking photo. It creates crazy details down to the wall little cracks. Is like mind-blowing. I don't know how long it creates. I think like almost a year to create pieces. It's created a skyline for San Francisco that I had the honor to see when it was in process. I know that in one of these paintings there is also Jesus Ramirez somewhere. I don't know if it's this one over here. Let me just zoom in. I wish Jesus was still in the, yeah, I think it did that digitally. Yeah, Marisa is like mind blowing. And that's all digital painting. Like, I'm such a huge fan. And if you zoom in, I don't know here how to, oh, here we go. You can see also that there is Jesus Ramirez in his painting. Here he is. I don't know if you can recognize Jesus, but oh my gosh, how lucky to be in one of his painting. That's fantastic. As you can see, he's an amazing artist. Feel free to go ahead and look at his website. Bert Monroy is incredible. If you Google his name, I'm sure you can find plenty of tutorials on and events that he's taken part of on YouTube and on internet. And also he's done a lot of books, so you can find a lot of stuff. He's, again, as I said, user number 8 for Photoshop, and he created this fantastic brush that is gonna allow us to bring back the fur in our lovely tiger. So again, go back here into your brushes, make sure that you select Dune Grass, and then there is something that we're gonna be doing here into the brush. So in the shape dynamics, we're gonna leave it like so, but let me remember well what we need to change. We're gonna have to change the background, because at the moment it works as, I need to remember very well what we need to change, because if you can also flip the brushes, you can do so many different things here, but there is something in particular with this brush, which if I remember well, here it is. So color dynamics, you need to bring down the foreground background jitter, and basically what happens is that if you leave it to 100%, it's gonna work pretty much like an eraser, while if you bring it down to 0, you'll be able to paint in, which is what we need to do now in our mask. So with your brush selected, make sure to decide what sort of size you want. And I'm gonna scale it down a little bit, and I'm gonna go back in here, and it looks like it's still quite big. So I can use my bracket in order to scale it down. And I also perhaps wanna flip it to the other side. So I'm gonna make it a tiny bit bigger, and then I'm gonna undo the flipper, and perhaps I'm gonna flip it for the Y jitter. And yes, maybe no, let's see, let's have a look at how it looks now. So what I've done here is go into our mask, and yes, Steve is my dad. Hi Guido. My dad is learning Photoshop slowly. He's in his 70s and he's enjoying being here and learning from me and all the other amazing streamers. Thank you so much for joining me, Dad. So let's go ahead and use this brush, because that's very, very cool. So again, all you have to do is to zoom in and click on your layer mask, and making sure that you got your white selected. So I'm going to press X in order to swap my foreground with my background color. I'm going to go ahead here and start to create my fur. Isn't that fantastic? So as you can see, I'm going to zoom out so probably you can see a little bit better. Our sharp edges is now transformed into a little bit more smoother edges, because we are adding little fur to our tiger. And if you're taking any masking anything that's got hair, which is a pet, a cat, anything with fur or grass, this is a fantastic brush that will allow you to create much smoother masks. And I'm gonna jump back because I can also use it as a painting brush, so I don't necessarily need to use it as a mask, especially because I believe that otherwise we're going to start to bring in some grass here. So I'm going to press Command Save in order to save this marked object, and press Command W to close it, and go back here into our lovely composite that is coming together. So as you can see, if I bring back here our composite to 100%, our whiskey tiger head, all I have to do is to zoom in order to be able to work in our masks and see what we need and we don't need. Now remember, with masks, all we're doing here is use the brushes, and again in this case I still have Bert Monroy Dune brush selected. I'm gonna jump back real quick into our brushes that we were using before, and I'm gonna make it definitely smaller. I'm also going to close the brush settings so we have a little bit more space to work. And again, white reveal, as you can see, And if we swap to black, black conceals. Now make sure to use a brush which has a little bit of a softness, so you'll be able to overlap the two objects without a sharp edge. And because we are trimming pieces of the tiger in order to create our tiger man, and we're bringing them one on top of the other, make sure to use a small brush in order to kind of like bring the fur back together without any sharp edges. I can see the amazing Paul Trani in the chat. Stay tuned. We're gonna go and jump back into the schedule real quick, because Paul Trani is coming with a new fantastic Photoshop daily creative challenge right after me. He's gonna be here at 5 p.m. UK time, which I believe is 9 a.m. PST. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the correct time. 9 p.m. Pacific time and 9 a.m. Pacific time and 5 p.m. UK time. And Paul, thank you so much for joining me here. Super fun to have you here. So as you can see, you can start to delete the pixel that you don't need. And also here, remember, we're working on the mask. And go ahead and delete all these areas that we don't necessarily need. If you do see that, for example, we needed this area on the side, don't worry, you can always press X and swap and use our white in order to bring in the pixels. Now, something else that we can do here is to stretch the pixel, because we just missed a little bit of that side. So another way to do so, besides using the warp tool like we've done a little bit before, is to go under filter, make sure that we got our layer selected, go under filter and use liquify. Liquify works very well when you have to work with this area. Make sure to work with a brush that is way larger of your area in order to move it without creating necessarily something that is too obvious as in terms of being modified, of being liquefied. So if you use a bigger brush, it will be less likely to create an ugly movement that it doesn't look realistic. Now, something else that I want to mention is that we want to use our Dennis. I was looking for our man here, but we need to lose our Dennis, and I'm gonna bring this here. And Dennis, we just decided to give it a name. So the man is called Dennis, the tiger is called Whiskey. As every superhero, we have two different identities. Aventika joined again. Thank you so much for being here. Also, hi Joshua and Mallory. So again, with this fantastic liquify tool, as you can see, I'm moving a little bit the tiger and the fur in order to stretch it, just to create, but you don't want to create something that is too stretch like so. Don't worry, you can always use Command Z even when you are into the liquify panel workspace, and then click on OK when you are happy with the changes. And as you can see, we have here also a new filter, a new mask, because we are working non-distractively with our amazing smart object. Fantastic. So let's bring these layers back, and you can go ahead and click on X to bring in the black into your layer in order to hide the pixel you don't want, and again swap it into white to bring the pixel that you want here, just like so. Of course, I'm gonna be needed to bring the bottom jaw for the tiger. Hopefully we're gonna be able to finish this part today, and tomorrow we're gonna start to create all the split like Daredevil with all the little splatter, as if the tiger is like taking over the man Dennis identity. Fantastic. But now let's apply Bert Monroy brush here directly into our layer. So I'm gonna go back and click into my brushes, and now I can select the brushes that I used previously, and I'm gonna create a new layer on top by clicking on this little icon over here, and then I'm gonna click on I to select the eyedropper tool and click on the fur. And again, switch back to your brushes with B. So remember I for the eyedropper tool to select a color from your images, and B in order to jump into your brush tool. And the last brush that you had selected, in this case, we were working with amazing Dune legacy brush. So it's a Dune grass legacy brush from Bert Monroy. For those of you who just tune in, I'm just gonna remind you real quick how to get access to it. So you click here under the little down pointing arrow and then to the gear, and make sure that you activate your legacy brushes, and then find your legacy brushes folder under default brushes, you will find Dune Grass. Scroll down, is a little bit down below. There are so many fantastic brushes. Tomorrow we're going to talk about the lovely Kyle brushes as well, but for today we're going to be focusing on this fantastic brush from Bert Monroy. And once you're ready, I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger because I think that we were working with a really small brush. That's perhaps too big. I'm gonna zoom in so I can actually see the size of the brush that I'm working in. That's perhaps a good size. All you have to do here is just click, and again, in order to keep it realistic, I wouldn't do like a very big stroke, too harsh, but I'm just gonna, like, you know, click here and there just to create the kind of like illusion of the refinement of our mask. So when we're going to place a background tomorrow, we're not going to have any sharp, weird, fake edges, but we're going to have a beautiful composite that allow our background to come through and our tiger to look super realistic, our tiger man. Fantastic. So I'm going to keep going. And something else that I advise to do, especially for the tiger, just go ahead and select different colors. And so jump in between the brush tool and the eyedropper tool quite often. So, you know, again, just to keep it more realistic. And I'm going to give a little bit of a black. So get off the darker color. I think it's a dark brown or a black, and probably just here in one area because, you know, it looks like the stripes are going to this area. I can't believe we got 10 minutes to go. That's absolutely crazy. Times with you guys flies here, but I hope that you are learning a lot today. And again, you can still keep doing that here on the top, and we're creating this little fur for our lovely whiskey tigers. I know tigers are not as sweet as I'm portraying, because they will probably bite my head in a second, but I find them very beautiful. Just don't be close to them. We can admire them from distance. So for those of you who just joined me, you can find those assets also on my website, iamkladi.com/resources, and you'll be able to join straight away and jump into work with the PSD file and also the 2 Adobe stock images that I'm using. So Osama and Steve are talking about the hours of the day and Ramadan. I have no idea how that works, but I only thing that I know is that it's connected with the moon cycles. So it looks like that could be the case, but you know, it's good to learn. Let us know in the chat. And Sean is giving us a fantastic tip to start first with a darker color and then build with a lighter color. And that's absolutely true. Although it depends if you want to create area of dark color. Like in this case, I was trying to mimic one of the stripe. You can just focus in on create a darker color. So I think it's an overall tip. Sean is very fantastic. Use the darker first in order to create a background color that doesn't break the lighter color, and then build to the lighter. But if you do need to create stripes, you can always layer that on top. And as you can see, our lovely tiger is coming along very beautiful. Let's see if in 10 minutes we can at least get the face nailed. And for those of you who don't know what we're doing, we're creating our amazing tiger man who's gonna go ahead from color and free all the tiger from color basking and the tiger king, and he's gonna go and free them all. That's the goal. But here it is. That's the photo that we are trying to mimic. We're gonna have tomorrow the final splashes in order to really make sure that the composite brings together the transformation of our tiger man. And also, if we do have time, we're gonna bring all the colors together. Oops, that's a little bit of a glimpse of what the final starts to look like. We're gonna use also this inspiration from the Lucifer, very funny TV show with the city and the clouds, and we're gonna use Kyle brushes for that tomorrow. So let's try and squeeze this 10 minutes before I jump into the schedule and I leave you with a fantastic poll training for a new Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge. Sean, yes, thank you so much for your tip. I love when you share and all of you share your tip here. Michelle, you're very welcome. I love to spend my time here with you. I find it very relaxing and fun. So I'm glad if you guys have a good time as well. Okay, so let's try to bring in, I'm gonna go back here real quick and use my brush, and I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna leave our dune grass, and I'm gonna use the brush here just to hide this side of the tiger that we don't need, and we can also work with a bigger brushes using our right curly bracket. And here it is. I think that's a good way where to terminate the split. And I've noticed a little bit of a rough edges here, so I'm just going to go ahead over this selection just to make sure that we do have a smoother transition between our two layers, because you know, everything that is there too sharp, we don't want that, you know. So once we're done, I'm probably going to jump back into Dennis and create a new layer mask. And I can hide a little bit of his hair here as well, just so it looks a little bit more realistic with the shape of Whiskey the Tiger. And I'm gonna go ahead and keep going. But look at the difference. I mean, thank you so much, Bert. That brush creates look at the difference with the fur brush and without the fur brush. It's like mesmerizing. That's an amazing way of creating masks. Okay, I don't know where that bit of color is coming from. I'm gonna have to have a look, but here it is. It's from this layer. It's nice to keep the layer with the little eye active and inactive to see which bits are you working with. And again, let's see if we can use L to bring up the lasso tool and bring up, oops, I'm gonna do this again, bring in this side of the mouth. And perhaps, again, as I say, make sure to be generous with your selection, because it's better to have more pixels to work with rather than then again go ahead and liquify. Command C to copy those pixels from our tiger file. Go back into our is this fur brush a standard Photoshop one? Amanda, you'll need to go ahead and activate the legacy brushes. So make sure to go a little bit back, because we got only a few minutes before we finish, but perhaps I can show you real quick. Head to your brushes option, and I'm gonna just bring this mouth here real quick, and I'm gonna show you, Amanda, how to do that. So all you have to do is to, I think this is still a little bit too big. All you have to do is to head to your brushes and, oops, go ahead here to your brush, select the brushes tool, go here, click on the down pointing arrow, go to the gear icon and load your legacy brushes. Under legacy brushes, you're gonna find the legacy brushes folder with the default brushes, and then the brushes that I'm using as the fur is called Dune Grass. You need to scroll down because it's a little bit towards the bottom, but here it is. It's after a collection of star brushes. Perfettamente combinazione, yes. Steve, you're Italian. I can't believe it's probably 4 in the morning or what, something right now. This is crazy. And you're not only here learning with us, but you're also learning Italian. You're also, you know, speaking Italian. Make sure always to convert your layer into a smart object before we make any mistake here. And again, I'm going to try to go ahead and create a selection in order to change our layer. Here we go. I'm going to use the move tool. Oops. Let's zoom in. See what's going on here. I think I clicked something wrong. Oh, here it is there. Fantastic. Also, something else that we want to do here is bring down the opacity and pretty much do exactly what we've done before. Create a layer mask, and in this case press Command Delete to make sure that we have all the brush. Why can we use fur brush, Aventica? I don't understand. You can use that. You can have, everyone can have access to it. All you have to do is to load the legacy brush. But please let me know if I have misunderstood your question. I'm more than happy to answer here. So as you can see, I need to bring back this side, and that's the reason why I say always be generous with your selection, because you never know when you're gonna end up needing your images back. And I can see here that perhaps we can delete some of these pixels from this mask. I think this is the correct one, yes. And I'm gonna bring back the full opacity on this one. And let me see, which one are we working on? This is the top. It'll be a good idea to name my layer. So this is top. And then we got a middle section, which this is the bottom one. And then this is the mid one. Fantastic. So I'm going to go back and bring the opacity of all of them to 100%. And I think that here to the bottom one, really what we need to delete is the fang, and then we'll be able to match it a little bit better. I think it looks cool. So fantastic. I'm gonna delete this side of the mouth as well. And I'm gonna real quick use our warp tool in these last 3 minutes. And don't worry about this, we're gonna use our fantastic Dune brush to bring it back. All I have to do now is to match the lip to our main lip, and we can do that by pressing Command T to transform, and then using our warp tool. Oops, we need to unlink the mask because otherwise the warp tool won't work. So Command T to bring it up, and then use the warp tool, and here we can use the split in order to move it back. And don't do what I'm doing because I'm actually working too fast, and as you can see here, I had selected the mask. Oops, I have selected the mask, and in reality the way that I want to work is on the layer, so make sure that the focus frame is on the layer. And I'm going to press Command T and show you what happens with our warp tool before jumping into our lovely schedule. So as you can see here, I'm using this one to move up our lips just like so. And don't worry about the mask, you can always create a new one. So all I want to do here is to really make sure that we got a connection between the two lips. And also something that I can do is to bring back the link between the mask and the layers, and just move my entire, oops. Okay, so the warp won't be applied to the mask. And I think this is a very good start for our face. What do you guys think? Probably one more things to do is to bring together all our Whiskey the Tiger or Shere Khan the Tiger layers. So what I'm going to do is select one, click on Command, and then go back into our layer to make sure that we select all the tiger layers. And I'm going to press Command G in order to bring it back, and I'm going to call it Tiger or Whiskey the Tiger. Now tomorrow we're gonna keep going and move to the body. So we're gonna have half of the body into a tiger, and we're gonna keep creating our fur and then creating the daredevil effect with all the splatters. So we're gonna have the tiger body wrapping around the human body, and then we're gonna match it together with some cityscape. So in the meantime, remember, you can find all the file for this stream on my website, iamkladi.com/resources. And here it is. I just want to show you. It's at the very top, so you cannot miss it. Here it is. So click on Get Started in order to get those files. Cutting off. Thank you, team, for seeing him. And you can also download it to be here with me. But it's time to say goodbye, and I'm going to say goodbye here and leave it to Paul Trani. Thank you so much. Bye.